is. If you have not followed his Triple H horse racing podcast, you're missing out. It's one of the best podcasts in the country.
Good evening and welcome to episode 250 of the HHH Racing Podcast. I'm your proud host, Howard Kravitz. Thanks for joining us tonight for a special night as we're going to cover the late pick 5 sequence at Keeneland this Saturday and also talk to Jim Miller, director of racing Jim Miller from Hawthorne Racecourse. We'll talk to him about a great late pick 4 this Sunday. Please make sure you subscribe there on the bottom right-hand side of the screen. We are well over 2,000. Now our goal is to get to 3,000 subscribers. So please make sure you smash that subscribe button. Also hit the notification bell so you know new content will arise, and also that like button. We'd really appreciate it. It tells the YouTube algorithm, the YouTube robot, that this is a great podcast and will send people right to this podcast if they type in horse racing or anything related to what we do. Of course, you can see on my name tag there, at H Kravitz, that Twitter handle is almost up to 1,500. So that would be another cool milestone. Please help me get to 1,500 followers on Twitter if you do not follow me on Twitter. And then, of course, on the bottom of the screen scrolling, my email, hkravitzhorse@gmail.com. And you can see right now the next live show will be Wednesday, 9 p.m. Eastern, Bettin, Boozin. And something actually, a little production meeting in the middle of the show, something actually my co-hosts don't even know this. I know that for a fact they don't know this, but I'll just tell them right now, as they're listening behind the scenes, there will be no official flagship show next week. You're wondering what's going on. Well, I'm going to be presenting to you my approximate 45-minute documentary about myself, about the podcast, just to let everyone get to know me a little better and just the beginnings of the podcast. And it should be fun. It's going to be very heartfelt. And so that'll be coming out next week. Also, of course, a week from tonight is the NFL draft, and we certainly don't want to bump into that. There's going to be a lot of interest. And plus, Pete and Paul are exhausted because, of course, as they know, I work them to the bone. And so they need a little bit of break next week before we really get after it for Derby week. So Pete and Paul, I know you're listening to this. You'll be off next week, which will be well-deserved rest before the craziness of Derby week. You can listen, of course, to us on Apple Podcast, Spotify, and Anchor. Power picks, once again, we had some nice scores last week. Not only did we have first mission, but we had, I think all of us hit the pick 5. Didn't pay a lot of Keeneland, but it was nice to have it. And some other nice scores. So look down below the video player for information about our power picks. The subscriptions have gone up tremendously. Really appreciate your support. Not only should you look into our power picks for sure, because we're going to have blowout editions for the Oaks and the Derby on our power picks, separate editions. If you are not familiar with our tip sheet, you really need to look below the video player. We are not raising any prices for the Derby or Oaks Day. Now is the time to look into our power picks through Patreon. And of course, we have a great website. Pete Visco has updated a bunch of things based on some guy that won the Grade 1 Gamble last week. I don't know. I can't remember who it was. But anyway, there's some great information about that. All right. Let me bring on my wonderful co-hosts who've been waiting very patiently. First, from the East Coast of Maryland and author of our wonderful website, Mr. Pete Visco. And I'm not going to be sick of saying this, the Grade 1 Gamble 2023 champion, Mr. Paul. He's got the Paul. You're seeing very clearly, apparently, this evening.
I'm laser focused with my Gary Stevens signed jockey goggles.
Wow, I like those. Paul, have you come down? We had a great show on Tuesday. Have you come down to earth yet?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun Tuesday. I actually was just watching it back before the show tonight because I wanted to see if Matt Miller actually fell down when I said that if you had gotten there in time, you would have given Tapit Trice the bath. And it was touch and go there. I think he needed to be resuscitated. But no, I'm just very grateful, Howard. You know, I mean, I struck lightning. Could have happened to anyone. I'm not going to get any delusions that I'm any better a handicapper than anyone else, but it was very nice. And I am looking forward to tomorrow's pick six now with the triple carryover.
Yeah, for sure. Paul, I don't know if you want to move your camera now a little bit because your name tag's in the middle of your beautiful face there. Pete,
Yeah.
we weren't going to be talking about the pick six, but of course, Bettin Boozin covered the pick five yesterday, so people should check out episode. Boy, I'm sorry, host failed. It's 16.
I don't even know. I didn't have it up. Yeah, no, that's
Check out last night's episode.
yeah.
Of
Just find the most recent one.
what is it? $800 and some thousand carryover tomorrow.
856.
Wow. And Paul, something weird happened in the last race that I think is worth mentioning, at least, right? Today, Keeneland.
Yeah, so there was a gate scratch, which anyone who had him goes on to the favorite, and the favorite won the race and was uncovered by originally or with the gate scratch, because obviously if you have the horse that scratched, you get put on to the favorite. So
yeah,
it was tough for it to survive, but it did, and we will be taking a swing for that. I would think on a Friday, there'll be a pretty good amount of money bet into it.
And the weather's supposed to be beautiful. I will take a look at it. I'm actually doing some traveling this weekend for my brother's 50th birthday, so him and I are going to spend some good quality time together and celebrate his 50th birthday. I don't know. I'd have to handicap it tonight, and I got some packing to do. I don't know. I know it's crazy that I might not play.
Wait. You don't need to handicap. That's what the Bettin and Boozin show is for. Just look at that show, put their picks. Well, you'll have to handicap one race, unfortunately, but you can handle that.
Get in touch with Michael Austin. He wants to split a pick six ticket perhaps tomorrow. Marco Lou is here. What's up, Marco? Let's see. Nick Feldman. No one had it covered. Yeah, Nick. Pretty crazy, right? It's a $1. Nick Severs is here. Computers have a tough time with the $1 minimum. Perhaps. I don't know. But it is a $1 base bet. Pete, do you think you're going to throw your hat in the ring a little bit tomorrow, or you don't know?
Yeah, we'll see. You have to actually work, so I don't know if I'll have time to handicap. But there's always lunch. There's always time to squeeze it in if I need to.
Shout out to Ed Morales. Buenos tardes, muchachos. Ed, by the way, won the NCAA pool that we have through Bettin and Boozin. So, Ed, congratulations to you once again for winning the NCAA pool that we had on Bettin and Boozin. All right, guys, we got a lot of stuff to cover. First of all, Paul, I heard there's a horse that won today. Keeneland's taking a little buzz that I know you have a little special affinity for a particular reason.
Wow. The earliest Curlin ever to debut. This is the earliest in a year a progeny of my beloved Curly has ever run. Out of Lady Aurelia, if you want to talk about royal breeding.
First fall out of Lady Aurelia, by the way.
First fall, and Wesley always has the 2-year-olds cranked up, but you look at that and you say, well, is 4.5 furlongs going to be long enough? And I mean, the horse broke. Another horse took a flyer, went right to the lead, and Rosario just sat and made a move on the turn and effortlessly won by about 7. I think I tweeted, I don't know if I tweeted you guys or my other text group, I want to bet a 2024 Derby future today.
Well, Pete, people that study and understand horse racing know that it's extremely rare that an early 2-year-old really does much really throughout their entire career for the most part. Forte was actually quite an early runner, Pete. I think he debuted in June, I like to say, at Belmont last his 2-year-old year going 5 furlongs. But I mean, who knows what this horse is going to be. You wouldn't think, obviously Curlin gets distance. You wouldn't think Lady Aurelia would be distance, but Wesley's going to Ascot with this horse in June.
Yeah, I saw that. That's exciting. I mean, yeah, like Paul said, when you just watch the horse, it was worse than a paid workout. I mean, I never saw a jockey have to do literally nothing to get a horse to run, and that horse just took off and then exploded. So hopefully, knock on wood, everything stays health-wise, everything goes well, and we can see that horse next year and this year and at Ascot and wherever else that horse wants to go. Sounds fantastic to us, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's Stone Street. So Barbara Benke, haven't we seen her somewhere around before? I think last weekend. Anyway, guys, let's go ahead and get into the pick 5 for Saturday. Now, the pick 5 Saturday, Paul, should I bring up the W word? Do you know what the W word is?
We don't like
Weather.
the W word.
Chance of
Weather.
rain Friday night. Of course, our
We
good,
don't
our
care.
wonderful friend Kyle Roscoe is really hoping it doesn't rain because they've got a horse running Saturday, Smokin' Jay. It doesn't look that bad. I don't know. There's only 3 turf races scheduled Saturday, guys, and one of them is a stake that I'm sure will be on the turf because there's really no AEs or MTOs. Then there's 2 allowance races. We'll just have to see. We're gonna assuming there's gonna be turf racing. So, gentlemen, as we about to start our pick 5, I believe. Do I hear something? Yes, I do. There it is. Okay, so let's get into the pick.
One of these days, you're going to do that without the little lead in, and you're just going to surprise us with it. And it's going
I could.
to be
might.
seamless.
We might. I know it's a little bit too obvious right now, Pete. All right, let's get to the pick 5 right now. As I go ahead and flip over some screens here, switch to the banners. Let me.
Howard, look. I know you love the weather. It looks like tomorrow's now the weather day. 46% chance of rain tomorrow. Only 24 on Saturday. So
okay,
Saturday should be good.
I heard tomorrow night, but we'll see. Anyway, whatever. It's not going to rain. Race 6, about 3:40 Eastern tomorrow. Saturday at Keeneland. We're starting with the main special weight. I know a lot of people are not big fans of that, but it is the first race of the sequence, so we can see the board. $100,000, 6.5 furlongs. These are for 3-year-old maidens. You can see it's a pretty big field here. You got some one also eligible. Morning favorite is the number 7 Class Actor, a first-time starter for a pretty darn good combination of Cox and Drew. And as I go ahead and show the PPs here, guys, I know you're wondering where is the banner. Give me 1 second here. Here's the, whoops, let me just do that here. Here are the PPs. And as I show the banner, I figured, guys, you know what? We really only need Paul because on the bottom of the screen, I mean, Pete, out of all due respect, I mean, does anyone really care about our picks anymore?
I mean, well, Paul might have used all his up for all we know. So we might have to, that might have been his last great hit. So he might be on a cold streak. Knock on wood again. That doesn't happen. But well, although Curlin's progeny came around today, Paul. So you're still riding that wave, I think.
Yeah. So
bad news for you guys. Oh, Paul. I get it, Howard. Okay.
Oh,
Howard's doing a funny, Pete.
I was in on the funny. I was reading the funny. I didn't know you.
The old man Pete didn't even realize. He didn't even catch it. Pete.
I just going to say bad news for you guys. You picked the same 3.
He doesn't have his goggles on. You need your Gary Stevens goggles back on to be sharp again.
All right, Class Actor, 230,000 Ghost Zapper, called Out of a Distorted Humor. Mare has good works. I mean, we've got to see the board, but he is 5-2. Morning Line, Paul, we'll let you go first. And Triple Crown nominated. Obviously, won't be going there, but very well meant.
Yeah, so Cox's first-time starter maidens at 18%, but at Keeneland, that bumps up to 24%. Ghost Zapper progeny are just okay. He's about 10%. I don't see any way this horse is going to be 5-2. If the horse is over 5-2, I would consider him to be extremely cold on the board and proceed with caution. But I think this horse is more like 8-5. And as far as a multi-race sequence, you got to use the horse. It doesn't mean you can't use others because it is a maiden and there are other horses to use. But I think the race starts. It goes through him. Pending any, first-time starter mishaps.
Yeah, Classy Act was out of this family, won 328,000. There is some sprinting in the pedigree. There's Giant Act. I mean, again, let the board be your guide. I'm sure this horse is going to be very live. And then you got the horse I have on top, Paul, which is number 6, Billy Jack, who ran perfectly fine, and I thought a pretty tough main race, and most importantly has experience.
Yeah, and most importantly, Asmussen won a race today. So
okay, broke his cherry at Keeneland.
Yeah, he was winning, I believe, for the last 5 years. If I looked it up on Formulator correctly, he was 9% at Keeneland, and when you consider he's about a 20% guy across about 19 different racetracks. But he did win a race today. And, you know, Howard, I've learned over the years in races like this, you always have to use the horse that is already run that you think looks the best.
Not if you're Pete
You know?
Visco.
Well,
I used on the ticket though. On the ticket,
I know, I'm
honestly,
sure you did.
I was ready to have half the field on the ticket. So I'm with you, Paul.
well, see, Pete, that's what makes it tough. And, you know, we've talked about this so many times. I mean, you can go very deep in a race like this, but then if there's 7 wins at 8-5, you're really screwed, out of lack of a better word.
It's just a tough. I found this one just tough because, again, anytime there's mostly first-time starters, it's always going to be a tough race. And there wasn't a ton that jumped out where it was like, hey, aside from connections, there wasn't a ton that was like, this one looks just better. So that's why I think the board can always be the guide as well. But that doesn't help us today when we're trying to talk it through.
Well, Pete, you like Moreau. He's got some very fast works. McKeever's a good trainer, but he's only 1 for 21 this meet and doesn't win too often. But
no,
the breeding is nice by Speightstown. I'm not. Let's see if not too familiar with the actual dam here.
No starters,
unraced. So you know, there's a lot to sift through. I guess again, let the board be your guide, or is there something specific you like about this one?
Yeah, it was just a couple. So Speightstown, 19% with 3-year-old and up first-time starters. So I usually look at that when it's not the 2-year-olds. 19% in dirt sprints. So at least as far as the sire side, it seems to be a decent barometer for a good race here. Again, the dam side didn't have much, but I just did like the works. I mean, the works have been at Keeneland, which is a +2. So at least the horse likes the surface. I mean, you see the ones 3 back and 2 back were excellent out of the gate. Excellent. The last one, you hope, is just sort of the last tune up, and it was still a 48-2, which is very nice. So this horse just seems to look fit. McKeever, like you mentioned, though, 2 for 25 first-time starters on dirt and 2 for 77 overall at Keeneland. So those are tough. But again, in a race where I think you're kind of throwing darts because they all are first-time starters for the most part, and it is going to come down to break and who runs well and who's green and who runs straight down the lane. You know, I'll take a shot with an 8-1 shot on my ticket to sort of start this pick 5 off.
Paul, any quick thoughts what Nick Feldman says here, that sometimes think that once you start to wind down and meet, the chances that first-time starters that are, you know, greatly decreases. Experienced mains tend to do better, but Keeneland isn't a long meet. I don't know. What part of the meet does that affect you at all in any way?
I would say no, only because, you know, these horses all develop at their own pace, right? And you never know what's going on behind the scenes. You know, we've talked a lot about Cody's Wish on this show for obvious reasons. And Cody's Wish debuted in June of his 3-year-old year due to just a series of, you know, minor little things that the 2-year-olds go through. So, and I do think Nick makes a good point. With a shorter meet, it's probably even less applicable. But I think that I would say because they're first timers, I wouldn't be too concerned that it's late in the meet.
Pete, Jeff Amster in the chat mentioned that there's some nice breeding in the second family of Moreau, so that's good for you.
There was.
Take a look at that. By the way, the number 4, do we know who that could be named after? I mean, I don't know for sure, but do you guys know? One of my favorite movies of all time. Dead Poets Society.
Oh,
Keating,
I haven't seen that in
Keating
so long.
was the teacher played by Robin Williams. God
Good
bless
call.
his soul, by the way. One of my favorite
Hey, Pete,
actors.
I'll tell you, Pete, I have your 5 as a B, but if the rain comes early,
oh, yeah.
Load up.
Yes, load up for sure. Yeah. Real quick on that 4, Howard, a couple, the one funny stat was Cassie with Irad. They haven't run together much. 0 for 8, though. 0 for 8 on the win end together, which, again, it's such a small size. And Cassie, 0 for 11 first-time starters in this sort of configuration at Keeneland. So, again, just maybe not, you know, he maybe for some reason doesn't have his best here. I don't know. It's a tough one.
And the 8, Salivo, of course, no relation to Salivo Spritz, who a horse that I had that was just claimed. It cost $685,000, guys, for West Point. So West Point, obviously, Saratoga guys, right, Paul, and naming that horse Salivo. I'm sorry, Paul. Long day today, Paul? I'm sorry. Did I interrupt something? Have you had a busy week or something? What's going on?
It's been a long week. I'm catching up.
All right, well, let's go. Let's move on. look, check out the board, right? Obviously, everyone needs to look at the board and
Yeah.
see what it looks like there. Before we lose Paul for the rest of the night, let's move on to race 7 here. Let's switch it here and go to there, and here we go. Race 7. It's allowance race, 6 furlongs, 3-year-olds. This is an N2X for the girls. This is 3-year-old restricted. There's a big Moorline favorite here, and the number 7, Socially Selective. And speaking of being selective, all of us are going with this obvious 7. In fact, Paul and I have the exact same 3, 7, 4, 6, and Pete's got 7, 4, 2. So we probably don't need to talk too much, Pete, about this race. Mott and Irad with the big Moorline favorite here. And we all think this horse will be tough to beat.
Yeah, I mean, if you just look at figures, I mean, an 82 and an 83 in that first leg in her debut, she rolls by 7 and beat 2 next out winners, and then comes back and loses. Comes back after a pretty lengthy, what is that, about 7-month layoff? Comes back and loses to Kia Life, who comes out next out and wins a grade 2 with a 90 buyer. So that was, there's nothing wrong with losing to that horse. So I think just based on form, I mean, if you look at the other horses in this race, I mean, they're generally in the 60s. So not that buyers are an end all be all, but she just seems to outclass this field. So she's a pretty tough one. I mean, the morning line makes sense. This would be an obvious single, I think, for many people. So I don't think we're breaking any news here.
She is. I listen. I'm using some others defensively. I mean, she's a lone A for me, but the number 2 Unsung Melody, Paul, might be a thorn in her side, because this 2 is very quick for Raylu. He's going to be aggressive, and it's not as if the 7 really passes horses. I mean, sure, she's tons the best on paper, but when she won at Saratoga, she wired the field. Last time in a slow pace, she just tracked a nice winner, but didn't go by. I guess you could, if you want to, put up the argument that she's got to learn to possibly pass a horse, that could be an issue, but she just seems too classy anyway, Paul.
Yeah, the only thing is, not only did Key of Life come back to win a grade 2, won the grade 2 Beaumont at Keeneland at 2-5.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
That was a big race for us, Paul, by the way, because we almost beat Key of Life with the 4 horse that we were both hoping went by in that race on Sunday. But anyway, I digress.
That's correct. But it's the thing, though. It's a separator. If you're looking to get separation in the field, in the sequence, you play even a smaller backup type ticket. I wouldn't be playing hundreds of dollars trying to beat this horse, but if you could ever hit it without him, this is the, as Mr. Miller says, a stone cold single.
Paul, we both have the 4. I don't think the 4 is impossible, guys. I mean, Wesley Ward at Keeneland, I don't, won by 5. It was a pretty fast race. This horse is by Practical Joke out of an elusive quality mare. So I'm a little curious about the break guys off several months. I mean, obviously Wesley can get a horse ready, but there are some breaks in the works that are a little concerning me. I mean, race January 1st, guys. Didn't work between January 18th and February 21st. Didn't work again from February 21st to March 16th. Has been working steadily since. Peter, Paul, either one of you can chime in. I don't know what to make of her, but I think she's the one that can upset the apple cart to me.
Yeah, I mean, and plus this horse has passed in her debut. She did pass horses. So if something does heat up on the front end, at least she showed that she can do that. So again, will she take to the dirt? Her breeding suggests that she should with no problem. And her works, she's been working on the dirt. I mean, none of them, like you said, they're sort of spaced out. None of them are spectacular, but at least they're being consistent. They're consistent now. So it looks like the dirt hopefully is not an issue.
Well, I did, I looked at the workouts, Pete, because, before she debuted Devious Stairs, because I was like, these are slow workouts for Wesley. I don't know if you guys can see on the screen or people at home, but she was always been working slow. Like even before her debut, if you look, 102, 50, 102. So that actually gives me more confidence, not less, that maybe this is just not a flashy workhorse in the morning, Paul, and she does her best running in the afternoon. This is a C for me, though, anyway. Is this a B or a C for you guys?
I have her as a C.
Okay. Pete?
Yeah, I think it probably, most likely a C. It depends on how the race goes. But I mean, yeah, you have to have the 7 as a lone A. But I think between the 2 and the 4, I mean, the 2 lost, 3/4 of a length to Punch Bowl and then comes back and wins. So I think
Yeah.
either one of that's a race that could beat this field, especially if the 7, the 7 isn't sharp or the 7 isn't what we expect her to be. So, yeah, I think the 2 of those, you probably bump them to a C just for value's sake. But I think it doesn't hurt to put them on your ticket.
Yeah, I've got a whole bunch of C's, but I mean, I don't know if I'm going to afford to put them as B's, and I'm not sure which one would be the B, pun intended.
Yeah,
So,
and it's not worth it. I mean,
don't
you
know.
don't want to add a bunch of value for the 7 to
Nah.
roll, and then you're just wasting money.
2 quick things before I move on. By the way, shout out to my Cubbies who are off to a great start. I have absolutely no idea what they're going to do the whole year, but they finally have some players that can make contact, and they've got a nice mix of veterans and young guys, and their pitching has been great so far. I don't know. I think they could outside chance of a wild card. And also, it's 420, boys. So if you're at home, smoke it if you got it. I'll just leave it at that. All right. Anyway, I teach high school, guys. I mean, come on. You don't think that came up in conversation in the hallways today?
Sure.
Fortunately, we're a clean cut school. No shenanigans at school. Anyway, let's move on, guys, to the next race. This race to me is, oh boy, guys, one of the clusters of the sequence. It's one of these long-winded turf races that I don't mind. It's just they're hard to handicap for me. Elkhorn Stakes, it's a grade 2, 350,000. They're going 1.5 miles. A lot of familiar faces here. We see it's a field of 10 with the morning line favorite, the number 5, Red Knight, a New York bred 9-year-old gelding, as honest as they come for Maker and Corrales. This horse has done well at Keeneland. I flip over the banner. Pete, let's go to you first because you've got a horse that neither one of Paul and I do not have in the top 3, but I will say that I've got a whole bunch of horses on my ticket. You like the number 3, Rising Empire, a fresh face for Brendan Walsh and Giroux, who ran a big race last time at the fairgrounds.
Yeah, this is one that's, I mean, obviously most of this field, we sort of know. They're a bunch of old veterans, so we sort of know who they are and what they are. And you look at this one, you say, well, this one's 5 years old, so the same, but only the last 3 races and didn't hit the turf until his 5-year-old season. So it is a little bit of a fresh start for this one. You're talking about a $700,000 purchase, so it was really well thought of coming, into his career. Now hits the turf. Excellent closing, first time debuting on the turf, closes. Next one gets a win. Now we're talking optional claiming 50, so we're not beating the world here, but then jumps up into a grade 2, gets on the lead, which doesn't even seem like his game, and it wasn't like it was a slow pace, and almost holds off Spooky Channel, who actually has been a pretty good horse. So I just feel like this one may be on the improve. You see by the buyers, they're incrementally going up. And so I'm just looking at that going, hey, if we can get one on the rise, the rest of them have probably sort of hit their peak or are, don't have a ton of improvement left, that maybe we can catch one on the up and up here at a decent price.
I love your thinking here, Pete. I really do. Even though I don't have the 3 on the screen, I have the 3 as a B right now. It just, look, older horses can win races. They can especially win long distance races if you pay attention. But Pete, it just feels like this race you want to take a stab. I mean, some of the more established veterans are lower prices. I don't know what the board's going to look like. There might be some moisture in the turf, so you might need to take that into consideration. I should mention Matt Miller joins us. This is from the last race. Matt said Stone Cold single with the 7 in the last race. Just wanted to mention what he said there. So Matt, thanks for joining the show. Really appreciate it.
Real quick, Howard, on the 3, but just the one other thing I liked was if you look at time form, at least there's literally 0 speed in this race. This horse at least showed a little bit in the last one that can get on the lead, has a 98 early pace figure, which by far is 11 points higher than the next one. So this could be one that just gets on the lead too and just sort of backs it down and hopefully has some kick late. So that was another thing where I'm like, at least I want this one on the ticket for that reason, if nothing else.
It doesn't feel like this horse has a 98 early time form, but he's been involved in fast races though, and we know how ridiculous that fairgrounds turf has been. So I might upgrade this horse to an A. I really don't know what I'm going to do, to be very honest, in this race, but I love your pick, Pete. I really do. And you've got the 2 second. boy, I was just a race off. I love this horse, the WL McKnight, and just got caught by Red Knight. And then I wasn't sure I'd like him as much in the McDarmagh, and then he wins. He's in great form. He's got an inside, post, which helps a little bit with that short run to the first turn. 7-2 Maker. I mean, this is an obvious choice to me.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I liked Red Knight that race 2 back, but I had the exacta, I think, too, and then I had Value Engineering. I just felt like this horse was just on the improve, and it's a funny one because usually when you have a turf horse that leaves Chad Brown, you don't expect it to have better performance, but it's not like Maker is junk on the turf, so we can, we're seeing the improvement there, and he's been running against the same basic level of horses and being pretty successful. Again, there's no speed, so will this be a plotting race where some of these horses that are going to come from the back of the pack? But if you look at this one last time, was able to sit a lot closer. So I just think based on that, Maker, he's won this race in 2019, 2020. So he's got experience in this race, and anytime you got a long distance turf race, Maker's going to be tough. So again, another one that's hard to leave off the ticket.
Nick Severs mentioned turf has been, I've seen plenty of horses close. I think when the rails are out at Keeneland, speed definitely holds. And also when it's firmer, speed can hold. If it rains, though, Friday night, that could absolutely change the turf course. And usually if it's a little more yielding, it's a little bit harder. The speed doesn't hold as well. Plus, I think the rails would come down tomorrow and Saturday. I don't know for sure, but I think they would. So anyway, there's a lot of variables there. Paul, you and I are going to, from what I heard, is a pretty good turf trainer. Mr. Chad Brown, IRAD, highest honors. Now, this horse does look like he's going to come from behind a little bit, but IRAD is a great judgment of pace. He's also done okay if on ground that's not quite as firm. I'm just thinking he needed that last race. It was sort of too bad to be true. He was the favorite, Paul. Maybe this is just Captain Obvious, but if we get 5-1 on this horse, I'd be very intrigued.
Yeah, this, who wants to beat Nick Tamaro for this race, making the morning lines? and Nick does a fantastic job. You look at like the race we just talked about. The race we just talked about had an obvious pick, but look at the sixth race. The race, Pete, we talked about the mix of the first timers with a few horses of run. How the hell do you figure out who's taking money? But yeah, Howard, I kind of default to this horse. I'm just not a channel maker fan. I assume they're going to send and try to get him to wire this field with, as Pete points out, not that fast. I did give the 3 a long look, Pete. I landed on him as a C, but always eligible to be promoted. I don't think the 8 will be 5-1, but the 5, Howard, who I almost picked, who's a great story. I was just doing a little on-air research here. I covered the race for the New York Thoroughbred Breeders website when he won the Grade 2 at Kentucky Downs on September 10th. So if you go back into 21, this horse didn't lift a hoof his last 3 races.
Yeah.
Trinity Farm is a guy named Tom Egan, who is from New Hampshire, I believe, and sent him down to Ocala basically to turn him out for 100 days and pretty much thinking he was going to retire him. And Chad Stewart down in Ocala called him after 100 days and said he wants to be a racehorse again. So he called Maker, figuring Maker does wonders with these, as you mentioned, Howard, these old turf marathoners. And look what the horse does. Comes back last year, wins 2, gets beat at Keeneland, which may be a concern. And then, he runs in the Breeders' Cup turf over his head. And then he comes back this year as a 9-year-old and wins a pretty good race at Gulfstream. Having said all of that, I think 5-2 would be really poor value on this horse.
Yeah, I'm not going to say I don't understand the morning line. I mean, but this horse should be 6-1. In my opinion, it's not be disrespectful to the horse ball. It's just such a tough field. By the way, Michael Austin, happy birthday! So
happy birthday, Michael!
Only a few days away from my brother's birthday. So Michael Austin, happy birthday to you. There's real quick some horses I want to mention. Another mystery. If it comes up soft, guys, big race on yielding at Hawthorne, big race on the soft turf at Houston. If there's moisture in the ground, I would upgrade another mystery. I know he got beat, by Spooky Channel and the Munez, but he's really only 4 lengths. 4 lengths is, I guess, in a turf race, maybe more than I want to be, but not that far off. If the one goes from the inside, which I think he has to, I think there could be a little bit of speed in the race. Another mystery pops at big prices, guys, when you least expect it. This is a horse I'm interested in. I think he can run, guys. Maybe might be that sort of reverse key play for you if you like that trifecta play. And the other horse I want to mention.
I had that one with you underneath, though.
Yeah.
I had the 4 underneath. I figured just doesn't like to win at this distance. You don't like to see that 1 for 10, but definitely hit the board. And if you can get a number 15 or even higher, that would be fantastic.
Shout out to Nick Sievers. This horse is fascinating to me. This is usually the kind of horse, guys, that I like put on top or something. I don't know if he's that good, but I'll tell you what I like, Pete and Paul. 3 lifetime starts only. Has done absolutely nothing wrong. Pratt takes over. I mean, it's a lot to ask. It's a big step up. He's only a 4-year-old. The sky's the limit. Pete and Paul, why can't this horse be a factor at a big price? Again, win, I don't know, but this is a great race to play vertically if you want to do it.
I actually had him. I have him as an A. He just didn't make my top 3. Just for all the reasons you said.
I think he's interesting.
Yeah. What do you have, Paul? Do you have anything on the 7?
I have him as a C, but apparently I have to look more closely.
Well, I mean, he's got to prove it, but
yeah,
I don't know. It's an aggressive spot, and Pratt's on him now. I read chose someone else, but
chose our horse, Howard. Well,
he chose ours. He's going to choose Chad over.
Correct.
So, right.
Hey, Howard, real quick before we move on, can I give you a couple funny stats on the 8, which were sort of what shook me down, put him down to a B for me a little bit.
Is that Brown, did you say on the 8, Pete? I'm sorry.
Highest honors. Apologies. Yeah, Chad Brown, I rad in graded stakes turf races, specifically at Keeneland, 2 for 14 on the win end. And Chad himself, 0 for 5 in these 12 furlong and up, the long distance graded stakes turf races at Keeneland. So, and this horse itself is 0 for 4 in the top 2 going this long. So all those sort of combined with the fact that I felt like this horse might get bet down, that's what scared me off a bit. But again, this race is wide open.
Guys, I've got the 9 in the mix too. And don't laugh. Brendan Walsh can win. We've seen horses coming from Turfway Park do well. This horse is really improving also. I mean, I'm not going to be shocked if the 9 wins. I mean, he probably won't, but I'm using the 9 also, guys. I just want to throw that out to the viewers and listeners. Maybe the 9's a no-hoper, but he likes distance. He's improving. He's only 4. He's by Warfront. He's with French breeding. I mean, guys, this is just wide open.
I had him as a C because I figured even though he didn't look great on the turf before, if his synthetic means he's just gotten better, if his synthetic form means, then maybe when he gets back to the turf. Real quick for Nick in the chat, no love for Tiz the Bomb, Nick, if I'm remembering. Isn't that your horse? No love? I thought he liked him last time we did Tiz the Bomb on the show. So
enough
Nick, in the chat, throw that in there if that was you. I can't remember.
Not very good. We really enjoy. We got a lot of people watching. Please continue to comment in the chat. Really appreciate your viewership. Let's go on to race 9, guys. Race 9 is the Ben Ali. This is a grade 3. They're going 1 mile and 3/16, so it's a pretty long run up into the first turn. $300,000 is the purse. These are some nice grade 2, grade 3 types. It's a smaller field. It's a field of 7. Morning favorite is Skippy Longstocking at 7-5. I thought that's a little low for Safi and Irad. Paul, let's go to you. You're going with Skippy.
Yeah, I looked and I was at first concerned about winning outside of Gulfstream, but then I realized the horse won the West Virginia Derby, a grade 3 at Mountaineer. The horse also ran a pretty creditable Belmont Stakes. And, Howard, I'm looking at, the company that this horse has kept. Mo Donegal, early voting. Mo Donegal again, Tiber, Zandon, Cyberknife, Art Collector. This horse's form is actually dirtied up a little bit if you think of it. And I said, well, he wins every other race. But then I saw the losses in between it, Art Collector and Tiber. And, I granted did not run a lick at the Pennsylvania Derby, a race that I saw. But, boy, I don't know. I don't you might be right. 7-5 might be a little heavy-handed. But this horse seems to be in pretty good form.
Hey, Paul, if you look at the form and you scratch out all the Grade 1 races, though, he looks awesome. I mean, if for some reason, when he gets to that level, he's just outclassed, then you can see by the horses that have beaten him, it's not surprising. But if you scratch those out, I mean, he's got the win in the Grade 3, the win in the Grade 3, win in the Grade 3, third in the Grade 2 Wood. So if you just scratch those out, that's the way I looked at him. Like, maybe he's a lot more impressive as long as there's no heavy hitters in there, and there are definitely no heavy hitters in this race.
There aren't, but I thought this was a pretty good Grade 3. Like, this is
it's
like
a good Grade 3.
It's like a solid Grade 2 to me. I mean, we should mention there's also speed in the race, because I think Pioneer Medina, I think Tyler's gonna be a little more aggressive and sit just off the pace. Trademark's going to go. Again, he's not nearly as good, but he is going to go, you would think. Call Me Fast, again, not as good, but could show speed. So I don't know if Skippy's just going to walk out there on the lead. Skippy can win. I'm using him. Guys, I just don't trust this horse. I'm sorry, especially at a low price. I've got him third. Obviously, like I said, he can win. I just don't fully trust him. Paul, you're going with the 5. Let's see. I've got the 5 second. P got the 5 third. This is a horse that I like actually quite a bit in this race, even though I have him second, Paul.
Well, McPeak, 15 to 90 days in a graded stake dirt route is 16% with a 244 ROI. So that helps. I think that New Orleans Classic, which he was coming off a pretty good layoff, I think that race was pretty good the way it turns out.
No
so that 4th out of 7 there really isn't that bad. He gets his regular jockey, Brian Hernandez. He's won at Keeneland, which helps.
Does his last race win this race, Paul, in your opinion?
I would say, you look at Skippy with a 102 and you say, okay, that was in the slot, but then a 106 at Gulfstream. So maybe, not necessarily, but okay. I think he's my other A, Howard. So I'm right with you. He's he is right there.
Let's talk about
real quick. One thing on Rattle and Roll, which I know you guys don't care as much about, but the 3 top buyers where he popped his 96, 100, and 100 were all on Lasix, and he obviously doesn't have it, and he's really topped out at 91 from a buyer standpoint off Lasix. And again,
I'm glad you mentioned it. Now you're going to make me switch my opinion. Damn it.
I never know if that means anything, but I'm conditioned to look at it now, at least.
At least. Yeah, no, listen, I didn't even look at it. I'm just not a Lasix guy.
Well, that's what I'm here for. I'm here to call out the Lasix, if nothing else. I have no other value with that.
It is. I mean, there's a trend there. Pete, you've got Tawny Poor on top. I think I've sort of chased this horse a little bit. I'm just sort of done with him right now. He's just not progressing. but this will probably be the time that he bites me in the ass. He does have blinkers on. He wants distance. He's got it in him, Pete. He just hasn't put it together yet this year.
No, and honestly, I think I was down to like 4 horses, and I could have flipped a coin because I don't trust any of them really. So it's really just who's going to run their race today or on Saturday, obviously. And I said with this one, you know what? Thanks, Matt. You know what? Maybe the blinkers just gets him into it. His best races, when you look on the form, a couple of them were when he was closer to the pace. So maybe I'd like to switch to Pratt. Maybe Pratt's a little aggressive with the blinkers on. We can get this one closer. He's got the win at Keeneland, so at least he's won over the course. Again, I'm not. This is a very soft win play, but in a race where I just had doubts about everyone, I figured I'll take Pratt and Cox at an 8-1 shot in a race where I think anything can happen. Because the 1 is my horse. I always love Pioneer Medina.
That's my horse.
Which you're going to get to, except that he's 0 for 5 going longer than a mile and a 16th. So the stretch out, and he doesn't even hit the board. I think he was 1 for 5 in the money. when
Well,
he stretches
Louisiana
out
Derby, he
beyond a
finished
mile.
third in a mile. He finished third in Louisiana Derby.
Yeah, but he just sat there and then just sort of sat
Yeah.
there and didn't do much. So that's the thing that scared me off this horse, who usually, you know me, I play him. I had him last time when he crapped the bed and lost by 11.
I those are all fair points. I think he's going to sit a great trip. I think if he's going to win a race, I think this is a great spot. He's going to sit a great trip. Distance, yeah, maybe he's concerned, but you know what? This is a little bit of it in Todd I trust. I mean, I don't think he'd send him here. There's I think the Ali Sheba is on Derby Day that I think is a mile and 16. Don't quote me on that, but there's plenty of other spots where he doesn't have to go a mile and 3/16. Is my point. We should also mention, guys, that the Oaklawn's got, of course, the Oaklawn handicap. That's a mile and 1/8 of grade 1. So these horses are choosing this spot instead of that. So I think that's some smart spotting by some of these guys. This is sort of a big race for Pioneer of Medina for me, Pete, in my own eyes, on how I treat him. If he doesn't fire because of the distance or doesn't run well, I'm going to be off him for quite a while. But this is a very much in Todd I trust pick rather than what I see with the visuals. So, and he's got the rail. He's going to get a great trip. But I don't know. There's a lot we can use here. Any other final thoughts before we go to the last race, guys?
Well, just how you mentioned Oaklawn, you noticed Tyler is on this horse. That's because Luis Saez will be at Oaklawn to ride.
There you go.
Charge It in the Oaklawn handicap. So that explains.
Yeah, well, Todd's got Charge It there too.
Coming off a dreadful performance in the Gulfstream Mile.
Yeah,
dreadful,
awful,
horrific.
Is he favored in that race, Paul? I didn't look at the odds. Is he favored?
Yes,
he is,
I believe
assume, right?
he is.
He's favored over one other horse.
There's a horse I liked, but I have no recollection of who it was. I'll look and I'll bring it up.
It's the horse that's won a bunch of races.
Last Samurai, who's been the horse of the meet, is 2-1. He's been a tough cookie. Classic Causeway's in that race. Proxy is in that race.
Proxy's who I like. That's who I like.
Stiletto Boy is in that race. That is a damn good race. Rated R Superstar is not the worst horse who ever lived. That's a damn good race, folks. Don't miss that one.
Radar Superstar is older than you, Paul. That horse is done. Stick a fork in him, baby. Yeah, I love the horse. But
as you saw this weekend, Paul, the old people still have some life left in them, right?
A little bit, Pete. A little bit.
Okay, you know what? I fully apologize for saying that. All right, guys, let's go on to the last race. It's the allowance. It's the closeout leg. Now, 5.5 furlongs on turf. We're going to assume it's going to be on turf. There are a bunch of horses in here, though, that look like could run on dirt. So we'll see. I know one person for sure hopes it's on turf, and that's Kyle Roscoe.
Wait, can you bring up Kyle's comment real quick? Because I was about to say the same thing. His comment,
Kyle's comment. Hold on a second.
It was just two. He's 2 comments back.
Is it this one?
Not that one. The one before that.
Everyone is dead to me except wow.
I mean, we don't.
We both picked him third. We both picked the horse third. I thought that was courteous.
I hope Tony Rallo, our wonderful sponsor from Crown's Way, isn't in the chat looking at this debacle on the screen here.
Wow,
unbelievable.
Right. Sorry, Kyle. Listen, I'm
with you, Kyle.
All right, well, we'll go to Pete first then, and when we bring it up here. Anyway, the Moorline favorite. This is a very tough race, guys. Moorline favorite is the number 10, Just Might. Michelle Lovell, CJ Hernandez, a very fast horse, a 7-year-old. What? We don't want to bring up Hawthorne. Not yet, at least. Let's bring it to it. You're going Smokin' Jay, who, listen, I love Smokin' Jay. I love the Rallos. I love Crown's Way. Kyle's an okay dude. I don't know, that might be a little strong at this point. Smokin' Jay ran fantastic. We'll show the replay just so, wow, what's going on here? Hold on. We've got a little tech issue here. Okay. Sorry, guys.
I could vamp about
No, we're good
Jay
now.
For a
we're
second.
good now.
You need it?
We're good now. Yeah, okay. We have to show the replay. I mean, so, Kyle can, get his chubby going here one more time. Let's show the replay.
Hey, it's a family show.
Whatever. Smokin' Jay was awesome. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Got a great trip, though. Let me back it up a little bit here. Smokin' Jay is great. The 2 on the inside. What a fantastic job training by Kelsey Danner to get this horse ready off the layoff. How about a 20-2 first quarter? You see those
one of those this week.
No, definitely not. You see the wonderful silks of a Crown's Way Racing there, the black and green, and just the tip out. You couldn't get a better trip. Obviously, he was ready to run. He's very talented. He can win this race, Pete, again. Meaning twice in a row.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going for the hope that, I mean, this was a very impressive race, and we always liked this horse before, and obviously we support Kyle and Crownsway, but aside from all of that, the one thing I did like is that this horse at 5 years old, first race off another 7-month layoff or so, ran the lifetime buyer top, pops a 95, and it was a pretty hot pace, which is what Smokin' Jay generally needs, but still anytime you could pop a lifetime buyer top at 5, then maybe he's on the improve. And again, if he can not just be too far back, which we know every once in a while he's a little further back than he needs to be, if he can stay within striking range, there is, I mean, at least based on time form, there's some speed in here. So hopefully it should heat up, and then let's get this horse running and we get Kyle. Let's get Kyle another victory here. That's all I care about.
Beer Can Man is off a layup, but I'm assuming he'll show some speed. Just to show No Balls, who, by the way, is a gelding. One of my favorite horses out there.
That's a great one.
Yeah, isn't it great? With Ravelli, he's going. Anguston is very quick. Mark of the Z is not slow. Just Might has only one way to go.
Well, the good thing, Howard, is that
nobody listens is silly fast.
That 10 and 11 are from the outside too, so they're going to have to gun to get to the lead. So that should heat it up right from the start, hopefully.
I haven't asked Kyle this question. I'm sure he's listening. I'm assuming he still is listening. Kyle, what are the chances of Smokin' Jay if the turf is a little soft? What has Kelsey said? What's the vibe by the team if the turf is a little bit softer? Smokin' Jay's been mainly running on firm turf. I mean, his second lifetime, actually, no. Early in his career, he ran a 75 on yielding. So if you can comment in the chat, Kyle, what Smokin' Jay's chances would increase or decrease if it comes up soft, I'd be curious to know that. Pete, you've got the 3 in second. So do I. Beer Can Man. Paul doesn't have his horse anywhere. This is a completely in D'Amato and Pratt, I trust. A ton of back numbers off a long layoff with Billy Koch, who we just saw last weekend, Paul, of course. Little Red Feather. To me, first time gelding, they wouldn't put this horse in this spot if they didn't think he could run. At least that's my opinion.
Yeah, I'm with you. And actually, Kyle answered your question as well, it looks like. But I mean, again, I like D'Amato. I love Pratt. So we'll get the two of those in here. But again, that's such a long layoff. Who the heck knows? But the good thing is that Beer Can Man has fired off layoffs, not anything near this distance or this length of time, I should say. But 5 for 6 going this short. So, there's talent here and had been running against some pretty high quality horses. So this, in theory, would be a little bit of a step down if we knew if he was in any kind of form. I mean, we just don't really, we don't really know. The works have been great, though. You look like 3 back. You see pop the 59 and 2 and a 59 and 3. Yeah. Nice 6 furlong. I like one of those nice 6 furlong. Yeah. So that's just getting the fitness in there. So I feel like this one's ready to run, and I don't want to lose to a horse that's talented like this.
I agree. Kyle didn't answer the question about if he just everyone could read what Kyle has there in the chat. He didn't talk about the surface situation. Let's talk about this horse because, Paul, I like this horse a lot. I understand he's off a layoff. The 15-1 would be amazing if I get it. I know he's a 7. You've got a 7-year-old. You've got him second. Pete's got him third. If you look carefully at the layoff lines of this horse, Paul, as I'm sure all of us did, this horse runs off layoffs and has a ton of back class.
Yeah, I agree with you, Howard, on the price. Of course, we didn't have the morning lines when we were doing the handicapping. But it's tough to have to rely on a turf sprint to completely fall apart. Yeah. But boy, I think this race falls apart in the stretch. Good. I think you started going through all of them, Howard, and the 11, kind of an unknown jock getting a shot here. He is definitely going. That 10, as you pointed out, Colby Hernandez will likely be aggressive. It's why I picked the 8, who I think is going to close. And who doesn't want to pick a Michigan bred? I picked the 8, and I'm with you on the 5 here. And I'm certainly not going to shy away with Mr. Gutierrez in the saddle, who is very much on my good side these days.
Yeah, and Paul, you're going with E.T. Barrett, a guy that, of course, us Chicagoans know. I like your creativity, Paul. I like your pick. I mean, who am I to say you just freaking won $150,000? That being said, it feels weird to criticize Paul right now, Pete.
Please.
Is he the best closer? I mean, according to time form, he's really not a closer, Paul. And there are other better closers in the race, like Smokin' Jay and the 5, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, you could be right, and he was very late last time, but that was a pretty good field last time too. He also was coming off a pretty good layoff. I think he's got
too in 2 weeks. I don't know how.
Yeah, with no works, which is a little interesting, but obviously Jose Rodriguez must think the horse is pretty sharp, and you want to be relatively sharp in a turf sprint. Again, Howard, I think he can close. I agree with you on the 5. That's why I used the 5. And, the 3 horses I picked, Smokin' Jay, all 3 I'm playing to come from, pretty much significantly far behind.
Yeah, I don't like Just Might at all. Even if there wasn't a lot of speed, guys, I don't think Just Might's nearly as good as he used to be. Now, he walked out of the gate last time, the number 10, and we're not going to go back and look. But I don't think he's as good as he used to be, Pete. I'm done with him. I don't.
No, I don't mind tossing a low price horse as the speed like that. That's going to have to go and is going to be contested, especially with a horse right from the outside who also has to go. So I'm hoping they just sort of wear each other down. Yeah. And I like that 8 a little bit. I had the 8 as a B, Paul, where I like when Baird rides that horse. He seems to know the horse better, and he seems to run really well under him. And then there's some spotty ones in between. So again, this one's pretty wide open, right? Except for Smokin' Jay, obviously.
Apparently, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'd love to see Smokin' Jay win. Don't get me wrong.
No, that'd be cool, and he'd be going on to the Jaipur at Belmont. And Kyle Roscoe said the horse is probably better on firm, like many of these are, but would be okay on the off. All right, let's get to the pick 5 now. Paul, I think it's important. You just had a big score, but it's important to stay disciplined. When anyone has a big score, it is important to stay disciplined with your money because you could lose it as easily as you can win it. Agreed?
Of course. Absolutely.
Right. So what is Paul? Let's take a look at Paul's pick 5 first. And Paul's got what the hell? Paul, what the hell? A $900 ticket. Wait a minute, Paul. What about Mr. Discipline? What the hell is this? This is way over our budget.
I think that's a misprint.
Oh, that's not. No,
that's
it's not
the ticket. It looks right. It looks good.
Oh,
to me.
There it is. Okay, I'm sorry. I must have pressed the wrong. I must have pressed the wrong button. But Paul, seriously, I mean, it is tempted to spend a little more money this weekend. No, or are you that good? Are you that disciplined?
Well, yeah, I'm not going to get any, like I say, I'm not going to get disillusioned to think I've written any books on handicapping. I'll be very happy if I could write one on Cody Dorman. Yeah, I won't play much different. I have kind of been leaning more toward doubles recently anyway, and I can assure you there won't be any of those denominations. But, I'm certainly not going to stop playing the pick 5s. And I think this is more of an ABC sequence, Howard. And I understand what Matt's saying about that second leg, but I think you got to take a small shot if you could ever hit it without the horse that everyone is singling, because I would say, and this is anecdotal, but the obvious single, I think we might all agree, doesn't win more than half the time. So,
why don't you have the pleasure of giving your ticket, sir?
Okay, my ticket is 5, 6, 7, 11 with 7, with 2, 5, 8, with 4, 5, 7, with 2, 3, 5, 8. As you can see, I am singled in that second leg on the Caveman. We talked about that first leg. I think we all agreed that the first leg was pretty wide open, and I was only 5 deep on the joke ticket, Howard. I'm 4 deep on the real ticket, so that'll tell you about that race. I went 3 deep in the Elkhorn, and boy, I think you need to be at least that deep there. I agree with you, Howard. You mentioned it right off the top when you pulled that race up. I think that's a very difficult race. And then 3 deep again in the Muhammad Ali. Although I think Skippy Longstocking is a logical winner, I did throw in Pete. I'm with you. I'm kind of been a Tawny Port guy, and I want to if that horse is going to be 7-8 to 1, I want to have a part of it.
Yeah.
And then I'm spread. I have Smokin' Jay. I have Beer Can Man, the horses we just talked about. And then, Howard, I have the 2 prices that we talked about, the 5 and 8.
I like it. Kyle's hoping to join everyone from the winner's circle, Keeneland, Saturday. That'd be very cool, Kyle, if you were in the winner's circle Saturday. And Jim Pillar's suggesting maybe I should go to the comedy club. Thanks, Jim, but I'll stick to my day job. I think that's what everyone would want me to stick to. Let's go to your pick 5, Pete, as we got Jim Miller waiting in the bullpen. Pete's going 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's easy to remember. With 7, with 2, 3, 5, 7, with 4, 5, 7, with 2, 3, 5, $90.
Yeah, I was ready to spread in a couple of these. I think my first pass at the ticket was about 280, so it wasn't as bad as Paul's $900 ticket, but it wasn't too far off. So in the first leg, again, there are so many first-time starters. I'm just swinging at most of them and then throwing in Billy Jack, the one who actually did start. Got to go with the single in the second leg, like every other person's going to do.
Yeah.
In the third, I mean, again, on that in this turf race, I mean, none of them are super reliable. So I'm going to go with a few. You got to have the couple of makers in there, though. And then we're going with House Street to try and get the price if that's the one that blows it up. In the third leg, again, I'm similar to you, Paul. I think we had the same horses, Skippy Longstocking, Rattle and Roll, Tawny Port. Again, maybe a little too deep with a 7-5 shot in there, but I don't trust him that much, but I don't not like him. I don't trust any of these horses to win 2 races in a row. And then in the last leg, I was ready to go. I must have had about 6 or 7 when I first did the ticket, cut it down to 3, but I do have Front Run the Fed, and that's the one. If Smokin' Jay is going to lose, I hope we can do it with Front Run the Fed and get a double-digit closeout to this sequence.
I think the late pick 3, guys, is a great bet. The late pick 3 after that, maybe single, because the late pick 3 to me is really difficult. All right, guys, did I single and whom?
Well, you had to single the 7 or else you got rocks in your head, but that's a possibility knowing you this long.
Paul?
I would say
rocks in my head, or did I single the 7?
I think you singled the 7.
No rocks in this head. No rocks in this head. I'm going 6, 7 with 7. With 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9. With 1, 4, 5, 6, 7. With 3, 5. Yes, it's sort of gutsy to go only 2 deep. Guys, I'm going to use the 6 and probably the most heavily bet first-time starter and pray. In my own ticket, I'm using more, of course, than the ABC. But that's what I would do in a caveman, guys. Look at the board. Most likely first-time starter and the 6, and just hope I get through it. The 7, obvious. Guys, I have no idea in the Elkhorn. It's a wide open race. I got even the 9 versus Stapin in there. Something weird could happen. And I'm deep in the Ben Ali. I mean, yeah, sure, Skippy can win, but I don't know, guys. I think a lot of horses can win. I mean, is Happy American really that bad? He's very long-winded. He likes distance, the 6. We didn't even talk about Happy American. I mean, I don't think he's impossible. And then I would just pray with Beer Can Man, the speed, and the closer in the turf. So that's an $80 ticket. This is a tough sequence, guys, even with a obvious single in leg 2. So I agree with all you guys. It's definitely an ABC kind of feel. Let's go ahead and bring on Jim Miller here to close out the show. Excuse me, not Jim Miller, Director of Racing of Hawthorne Racecourse, Mr. Jim Miller. Jim, how you doing tonight? Congratulations, by the way.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, I had to make it official today at the Illinois Racing Board meeting. Our racing secretary at Hawthorne, Alan Plever, is retiring. And with that kind of comes some changes. There's a lot of things that I do in racing around the racetrack that is off the screen. I do my on-air stuff because I love doing it, and I don't want to give that up because I truly do enjoy doing it. But there's a whole lot of behind-the-scenes things that I do, and we just kind of made things official today, and that's a good thing. I'm excited about it. I'm excited about how this meet's going at Hawthorne and where things are headed for us.
So real quick, this is not going to add or subtract from your normal duties. It's just literally a title change?
Oh, no, it's going to add. I'm not giving any duties up.
You don't do enough there?
Yeah,
is that what it is?
I do a lot. Here's the thing. I started in racing at Arlington Park when I was 17, and I made a point of it to learn as many jobs as I could. So I've been a clocker. I've served as a jockey's agent. I've been a horse owner. I've been a chart caller, a track announcer. I've worked in publicity. I've worked in guest services. Today, actually, at Hawthorne, I was a placing judge because our placing judge was getting his wisdom teeth pulled. So wow. I've tried to learn as many jobs over the course of 30 years in racing for a couple of reasons. One, so you have somebody to be able to fill in and do it. But two, so you can relate with everybody that is doing those jobs day in and day out. So when they come to you with a question, they come to you with a concern, an idea, something that can work to make things a little bit better. I can relate with them a little bit as well and be able to hear them out. So I've tried to do as many things as possible, and it's a good thing. I'm excited about it, and we're having a good start to the meet, and I think the momentum's going to continue for sure.
Hey, Howard, don't you think it's all related to his appearances on the HHH
Racing?
Of course. I mean, that's the springboard, obviously.
Obviously, when he went to the bargaining table, that came up. I mean, are you kidding?
He's like, "Did you see my appearances on the show? Come on, that's got to be worth the promotion."
I know one thing, Howard. When we finally make it out to Hawthorne, we're getting a good table.
Oh my gosh, yeah, you're getting. Well, here's the thing. I mean, we looked at the panel.
We got the whole damn balcony. What are you talking about?
Yeah, the panel Tuesday night. Basically, everybody's going to be an invite to the Invitational on there, so we're going to see all of you in there for the Invitational on Hawthorne Derby Day. But yeah, it is. It's fun. But here's the thing, guys. Here's what I like. I love the relationships, too. That's why, like Howard and I talked about this at the start. We're like, okay, what is this? A 5-minute, a 10-minute segment? How are we going to work things out? I do it because I love it. I do it because I enjoy doing it. I love talking to you guys, learning about your backgrounds, about everything that goes on. I learned a ton when we were talking on Tuesday about the contest, because contest play is far different from handicapping races on air each and every day. And I say that because my job as an on-air handicapper is to make that race sound like the most important race at that time for whoever's going to be there that day, because they may only come out for 8 races, the whole meet. Other people may watch and wager on races each and every day. So everything's a little bit different for how things go, but I enjoy learning. I'm always going to learn, and this is something that's definitely exciting for sure.
Yeah, well, we're really happy for you, Jim. Yep. Pete and Paul, we're going to let you guys go. We are going to have a business meeting. I will on air, well, not on air, but through StreamYard. I'll send you guys information about that early next week. Because Jim, I don't know if you heard, there's a big race coming up in 2 weeks, and we have a lot of exciting podcasts to get through if Paul can make it through those shows. So,
do they know my take on the Derby in regards to Forte?
What's your take?
Completely tossing Forte. Will not use the horse anywhere in the Kentucky Derby. I want nothing to do with that horse at all.
Beautiful. Well, we'll get your hot takes as we get closer and closer. Pete and Paul, thanks a lot, guys. Have a great night. Take care. All right. Jim, yeah, no, listen, I agree with you to some extent. Not quite as bold as you, unfortunately.
That's okay.
Listen, I know people at home, don't go anywhere. I know we lose a few people. No disrespect to Jim or Hawthorne, but people we've never known. Don't go anywhere. We're going to cover the pick 4 right now quickly at Sunday at Hawthorne. It's a great sequence. Just as I bring up we're going to bring up the PPs too. Also, Jim, talk about how the meet's going and the progression. We got more horses coming in from out of town now. Turf is starting soon. Things are really going to start getting going at Hawthorne.
Yeah, turf starting the second week of May, so that's something that is exciting for us. And we're kind of in uncharted waters this year because it was always Arlington Park in the summer. So Hawthorne was kind of the spring and the fall meet. It used to be Sportsman's Arlington Hawthorne. So we have to determine, okay, when do we start on the grass? Because it's going to be a 4-month turf season. But it's been really good, just kind of how we've been able to train through the winter, get certain barns in, get that momentum going. I was looking today, for example, we did the 12% takeout on win, play, show wagering, Howard. Last year, our win, play, show pools averaged about 43,000 per pool per race. This year, it's up over 68,000. So people are tuning in. They're watching, they're wagering. Handles up very well. We're up almost 400,000 a day in handles. So they're not only wagering win, play, show, but they're wagering these sequences. And what happens is with more money in the sequence, usually provides a little bit bigger payout as well. And something that you definitely want to check out. But it is something where we thank everybody for the support, and it has been a very good start to the meet.
Let's see. Handle has gone up. Jim gets a new job. I think I got a feeling that college tuition for the family might be a little bit easier to swallow these days.
My daughter's a freshman in the fall, so yeah, she's
or
going to
better
be a
yet,
freshman in the fall.
Maybe those pick fours are going to be you're going to be able to spend a little more money. Just kidding, Jim. I have no idea. It's not my business. But if that is part of the gig, congratulations for that too. All right, the pick four is scrolling on the bottom of the screen. Let's get right to it. It starts at 4:45 Chicago time Sunday. Again, there's not a lot going on Sunday at this time. Great job by Hawthorne of figuring that out. Starter optional claiming 13.5 down to 62.5. 6 furlongs. You see the field here of 9. The Moorline favorite, big favorite on the outside, long, tall woman. But you're going to go with number 8, Good Mongolia for Rodriguez and Julio Felix. And I've got the PPs so we can show those as well, Jim.
Yeah, and here's the thing that's interesting about this race. Long, tall woman, if the race were 3 weeks ago, I would have probably picked long, tall woman and singled the horse. Since then, the horse has been entered and scratched, and it was out of an easier spot than this. So that's something that's a little bit questionable for me coming back into here. Now you draw the outside with a track that has evened out a little bit. And I'm not saying the horse can't win, but I'm telling you, Good Mongolia has run back-to-back really solid races. And Good Mongolia kind of surprised everybody with that last out, because this is a horse that you look at all the prior starts, their routes and their turf routes. Then all of a sudden, you have this dirt sprint that pops up, and it was a really good effort. Rated close to the pace, responded nicely in the lane, finished well there. Julio Felix riding back. And just looking at the pace complexion of the race, there's not a whole lot of speed to the inside. And I think Good Mongolia gets out of there, finds a really good position early on, and maybe gets to jump on Long Tall Woman at a little bit better price. And I think you get every bit of that 9-2.
I'm going to push back a little bit, Jim, because that's what we should do on this show. Be a little bit argumentative. What do you say to people that would think Good Mongolia is a turf horse? And yes, that she's run well on dirt, but she prefers wet dirt because turf horses generally prefer wet dirt. And if it's fast Sunday, I don't want to use this horse. Argument's sake, is that a valid argument?
It would be a valid argument, except when you look back to that September 30th race of 22. That was a route race, but here's the thing. That was a route race on a fast track, and the horse ran well. He handled the track just fine, ran well going the miles. So that was the only reason why I wasn't overly concerned about that with a fast track. But again, I'm just trying to beat a horse that scratched out of a spot where it was going to be clearly 2-5 in that last out. And I'm going to, and you hate to say it, I'm trying to beat the horse. You have to use the horse. I'm only going to go too deep when we get to the ticket, but I think your price and your value comes with Good Mongolia on that spot.
Totally agree. That horse is in very good form. Definitely a use in the pick four. Let's go to the second leg of the pick four. This is going to be 6 furlongs. Starter optional 13.5 down to 62.5 once again. Is this a split of the last race then, obviously? Or is it a different?
This race here? No, this is a different race. This is the boys. Last race was the girls.
Okay,
the boys version of the race.
Yep. Similar kind of race, obviously.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
Seven horses here, wide open. You have the Moorline favorite as the number 3, Dark Hedges, for Brittany Vanberg and Chris Amy. But and that is who you're going with here in race 7.
Yeah, Vandenberg and Amy lead the standings for rider and trainer right now. Brittany's having herself a really good meet. This was a horse that 2 races back on March 9th. Ran against a horse named Silver Moon Road. Now, Silver Moon Road had won 6 or 7 consecutive starts on the dirt, and Dark Hedges held its own against Silver Moon Road. Then all of a sudden, in that last out, Dark Hedges runs a really good race and kind of turns the tide there on Silver Moon Road, and then ends up going off, battling head and head the entire way, and going on to the victory. So I really like that performance there. You look up and down this field, there's not nearly the pace in this race that we saw in that last out. And in that last out, Dark Hedges was really part of a 3-horse pace battle there. Things should be so much easier in this spot. I think Dark Hedges will be very, very tough.
Looks like Follow the Signs could show some speed.
Yep.
For Rivas and Centeno. I'm just looking down the field. I think
maybe Asti Sky. Asti Sky is usually a little bit more route speed than sprinting speed.
Yeah, I think it's Chris Amy's excellent jockey. This is the horse to beat. Speed, as you mentioned, it's been holding pretty well lately, Jim.
It's still holding well, and that was the thing. Today was kind of tough because it was warm. You're getting a lot of water on the track, but we had, as you know, 30, 40 mile per hour wind gusts today. And for us, when the gusts are coming out of the west, that's a direct headwind in the stretch. It's so hard to make up ground in a quarter of a mile stretch into a headwind. So if things calm down, Then the track evens out a little bit, but really, Howard, the first 6 weeks of the meet has been very much a front-end racetrack at Hawthorne.
Let's go on to the next race. This is the third leg of the Pick 4. Again, this is Sunday, ladies and gentlemen. Sunday at Hawthorne. Race 8, 6 furlongs. Got a nice allowance race for fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and up. This is an N1X here. You got a field of 9. The Moorline favorite is the number 6, Illinois bred. Excuse me, the number 3. I apologize.
Yep. Yeah, Kentucky bred.
First Kitten for Miraz and Centeno. Stormy Empire, the Illinois bred. Yeah, for Kirby and Chris Amy is 5-2, and you're going to go with First Kitten on top.
Yeah, I'm a little chalky here, and you'll see when I play the ticket kind of the way and how I played the ticket. But First Kitten in that last out, that was a game effort. Race day attire, the winner of that race, got an absolute dream trip. Waited along the inside, was able to run on late through along the rail and go on to that victory. But First Kitten was right there all the way to the wire. And you're going to see in this race when we look back, First Kitten got away in good order and was kind of in the middle of the field there. And you see First Kitten now. You're going to see the one horse kind of come up along the inside. And I'll tell you, Howard, it was a tremendous ride by Orlando Mojica because the only way he was going to win this race was to save ground the whole way around. And he did so. And you just see race day attire comes right through as First Kitten comes off a little bit off the fence.
This is the race that knocked me out. We talked about this.
Yeah, and First Kitten was right there. But Mojica, the only way he's winning this race is doing exactly what he did because he had to save ground every step of the way. But here's what I liked. Race day attire got basically a length ahead, maybe a length and a half ahead, and First Kitten fights back and actually gets back to the point where I think it was a half-length score in the end. So it was one of those things where this was a horse that could have kind of given in and really didn't do so. Now, Journeus is in the spot, the 5-horse. This is a horse that improved quite a bit with the addition of Lasix in that last out. I think the second start with Lasix helps. And then Stormy Empire is an Illinois bred who's put forth a lot of pretty good efforts. But I'll tell you, First Kitten, it was a good, solid performance in that last start. And again, if speed is holding, this is a horse that you definitely have to use.
And when you see the other two horses that were in that race, First Kitten did all the dirty work up front, and the other two horses just sort of clunked up. So that's a nice replay to watch. On paper, they look like they're competitive, but in all reality, First Kitten really probably ran the much better race. Would you agree?
By far. Yeah, it was a very good race. Had to work hard. Never caught a breather by any means. This was a horse that had to battle all the way to the top of the lane with another horse, and then all of a sudden, I think he may have even gotten surprised a little bit by this horse sneaking through on the fence and then fights back again and only gets beaten a half.
Yeah. Excellent commentary. As we go to the last race, the closeout leg on Sunday is the main special weight. 6 furlongs, 3-year-olds and up. You see it's a nice field of 9. The Moorline favorite is going to be the number 8, Russian Hammer, a Florida bred for Perez and the apprentice Giles. And that is who you're going with on top. And as we talk about this race a little bit, we should mention, let me put you on screen. Fairmont. There we go. FanDuel opened up downstate. I know some of these jocks are sort of going back and forth between Hawthorne and FanDuel. Is that correct, Jim?
Yeah, and that was one of the points I actually made in our racing board meeting today is we wanted to set our schedule moving forward so we didn't overlap because we do share some horses. So FanDuel racing is on Tuesdays and Saturdays. Right now we're Thursdays, Sundays, and then we're actually going to add in Wednesdays at the end of May. So gives Illinois horsemen 5 days a week to be able to race within the state if they want, but the riders as well. And we probably have 6, 7, 8 riders that will go back and forth between Fairmount Park and Hawthorne.
That's quite a long, that's like a 6-hour drive.
It's a haul. It's almost to St. Louis. Yep.
Wow. It's a long drive. All right. Russian Hammer greatly improved. Was it the sprint? Well, you can't say it's the sprinting. Was it the mud? Because that would be my very first quick look. But he is an improving 3-year-old, so maybe it wasn't the mud. Maybe he's just improving.
I think it was fitness more than anything. This was a horse that stayed at Hawthorne throughout the course of the winter. But if you look at the works, going into that race on March 5th, the horse worked basically 1 month prior to that start. And then Manny Perez went in there and ran in that race on March 5th. And I think he was just basically given a start. It was only a 6-horse field. Active Fool, the winner of that race, is a very solid horse from the barn of Larry Ravelli, who came right on back to win against Allowance Company in its next start out. And Active Fool ran a really solid race around 2 turns. So this is a horse that's improving. But then Russian Hammer, I think, actually just kind of raced its way into fitness for that last out. That last out was a much better performance. And again, the winner of that race was a horse by the name of Onasa. Onasa is another Ravelli horse that is a very legitimate racehorse. This is a horse that, if you look on paper, the start 2-back War Room, this horse battled head-to-head with War Room all the way to the wire. And then Onasa was a horse that was able to make the top and look to be the best. But like we said, Howard, time and again, Hawthorne has been a speed track. Russian Hammer closed up 16 lengths in the lane. It was a huge amount of ground that this one made up. You get a 16th of a mile further. The horse, I think, is clearly fit now. There's no Actifool in this race. There's no Onasa in this race. So this is a horse that definitely merits a look.
And you've got Merlotti second, who finished behind your top choice. For John Wainwright, excellent horseman. Second time out, some bullet works in the holster. I think Merlotti can run a big race here. Really well bred, too. Son of Bernardini out of a more than ready mare.
And the thing about it, you look at those works at FanDuel Racing, Fairmount Park's racetrack down there is not an overly quick racetrack by any means. So when you post a bullet drill there, 101 and 2 at Hawthorne is kind of a middle of the pack work. 101 and 2 at Fairmount Park is a good solid drill over that racetrack. So this is a horse that comes out of a pretty good race, and you get a gate work coming into this spot. So expect the horse to get away a little bit better, and the horse should run rather well.
Speaking of works, I hear a horse that is training for the Kentucky Derby is working pretty well. Two fills from all indications looks great at Hawthorne, and I think has a chance to fire a big shot in 2 weeks, Jim.
Yeah, I'll tell you, Larry Ravelli and I were both doing anti-rain dances on Sunday morning because he wanted to keep the horse on schedule. And he's done a very good job of this, of just patterning out, scheduling out all the works. Well, the time for the work was going to fall on Sunday. It was supposed to rain on Sunday and looked like it might. It rained Saturday, and then fortunately, the rain pushed back to about 9 a.m. Sunday. So Larry and I got on the phone about 4:45 a.m. Sunday morning. We said, okay, it's a go. We're going to make Hero, be ready to go right when the gates open on the racetrack in case something happens weather-wise. So Larry's guys were there early. The gates open at 7 a.m. The horse walked on the racetrack, did everything right. Worked in company, worked behind another horse. And when I'm talking about in company, sometimes they're side by side. This horse was a gap, and I'm talking a length gap, like 3-4 lengths behind this other horse for the work. Cruised up there, just did it so easily. And this was under his Gallop boy, so it wasn't a jock. This was a rider who, you're talking about a guy that weighs about 130, 135 pounds. He's a very good hand, but cruised right on by, cruised through the wire in 59 seconds, galloped out in 113. It was a really good drill, and he's doing everything right. The horse is doing great. Larry's going to keep 2 fills at Hawthorne all the way till the Sunday before the Derby, and then head to Kentucky, and hopefully keep our fingers crossed that they have a really good Saturday.
I am fascinated to see what price he's going to be. I don't know if I'm going to use him on top. I am playing a Derby Superfecta. I don't know if I'm going to use him on top. I'm pretty sure I'm going to use him in spots 2, 3, and 4, though. I think he can absolutely be in the top 4 for sure. Late pick 4, bottom of the screen. Jim's going to try to crush a $9 ticket 5 times. So it's a $45 bet for $2.50. That's, of course, a 50-cent bet 5 times. He's going 8-9 with 3, with 3-5-6, with 2-5-8. Nice and concise and trying to crush it.
And like we said, I mean, all it comes to is being a couple of favorites. But when the pools are bigger, and they definitely are for the late pick 4s at Hawthorne, because you're starting to get those East Coast tracks finishing up, you get the ability to make a little bit more money if you just beat 1 or 2 favorites. I do think Dark Hedges is a very solid favorite and should be very tough. So I did single that one. After that, 2 or 3 deep, you luck out, you beat the favorite, especially in that first leg. If Good Mongolia wins at 9-2 and you have an $11 horse to start things out, it's going to be more than your return, and it'll be very nice, especially just for a $9 ticket.
Did I read off the numbers? I'm still on it. I don't know if I did. I don't think I did. 8-9 with 3, with 3-5-6, with 2-5-8. Sorry, Jim. I can't remember if I did or not. Listen, Jim. Hold on. We got to put your banner up here. Now it's official.
Hey, how about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Jim, once again, from everyone here at the HHH Racing Podcast, who we know was solely responsible for you becoming
100%
director of racing. No, seriously, congratulations to you and your family. It's so well deserved. You've done so much for Chicago racing and for Hawthorne. I mean, we wish the best for you, and we congratulate you big time. Any closing thoughts for the viewers, listeners about Hawthorne? Anything else going on in your world before we close out the show here?
There's exciting things ahead. I can't tell you that. Of course, everybody is very excited for what's going to happen on the gaming front, and hopefully there's some movement and some news that we can bring you very soon in regards to that. But I'll tell you, we're seeing positive signs for Illinois racing. You have 2 racetracks that are working together. Handle is up. Fairmount Park had a great opening day as well. but it's making smart moves, racing on days where you can be out there and you can be more of a focus, not going in competition with some very good racetracks across the country, and then trying to promote the right way. Do what you can for the fan. $12 takeout for win, play, show is important. 15% takeout for pick fours and pick fives is important. And it's one of the things that the bettors have supported us in return. And it's the reason why you can continue this throughout the course of the meet, and you don't can it after a month, but you keep it going and keep it going for a reason. Hopefully other tracks take the lead and do it, because it's definitely beneficial to the wagering public.
Got a shout out from Racing Don Win. Congrats, Jim.
Oh,
Eric said, you bring back fond memories with my father. He used to stay at Arlington Hilton July 4th weekend to bet on the American Derby and the Stars and Stripes. My very first fireworks show, I think, was on Stars and Stripes Day at Arlington. So anyway, Jim, you got a lot of love and support. We wish you a lot of luck. And I was going to close on one thing, and I just can't remember, but that's okay. Listen, pick 6 tomorrow at Keeneland for those of you that are interested, if you're listening to this live on Friday. But, of course, good luck to everyone with the pick 5 on Saturday, Keeneland, and especially the fantastic late pick 4 at Hawthorne on Sunday. From a good friend, director of racing, Jim Miller, this has been your host, Howard Kravitz, episode 250 of the HHH Racing Podcast. Thanks for watching, everyone. Good luck with your bets this weekend. Take care. Have a great night. Bye-bye.
If you have not followed his Triple H Horse Racing Podcast, you're missing out. It's one of the best podcasts in the country.